Hey, everybody, welcome back. It is Saturday morning, and this is another episode of Multifamily Unplugged. I hope you are having a great weekend and that your week was productive. I'm super excited about this morning's show. Normally I am, but this morning I really think that we're going to get into some things that will help you and help your business. We're going to talk a lot about capital raising and how that affects your business, because we all know that we're a function of capital, right? And unless we're raising capital and we have that capital to deploy in our assets and our acquisitions, it's hard to really move the needle in our business. So we're going to talk a lot about that this morning. I asked my guest this morning before I started, I said, hey, give me one word to talk about. And she said giving. And I thought, wow, what a great word, right? I think that there's a gift that we give each other by giving each other, whether it's knowledge, whether it's your treasures, whether it's your talents, and that giving back to others of what you have inside and who you are. It's like, we tell our story. We tell people about the business that we're in. We're always giving a gift, right? I have so many investors, and just to talk about capital raising for a quick minute, I have so many investors and coaching clients that think, I can't go ask people for money because I'm borrowing money, and you're not. You're really giving a gift of the investment potential for cash flow and long-term wealth, plus all the other benefits that go along with that gift. And so how are you giving back to your clients, to the people around you, to your family? What are you doing to give back? I think that was a great word this morning. So, hey, my guest this morning is Dawn Keller. Dawn is with Crown Capital from Dallas, Texas. We're going to talk a lot this morning about capital raising. So welcome to the show. If you're here for the first time, thank the person that invited you. Buckle up. You're in for a heck of a ride. And I want to invite you to like us, love us, and subscribe to the channel. Jump over, join our multifamily unplugged community so that you're continually being updated with new information, new knowledge, new things that are going to help propel your business. But let me bring our guest in. Dawn, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. I know that I had heard you a while back on somebody else's podcast and some clips, and I said I talked to my team and I said, hey, let's try and get her on the show. So I know that we've tried to meet a couple of times and our schedules didn't connect. So I'm glad we have this opportunity. So
likewise, yes, it's an honor. I appreciate your warm introduction and being here today, and really excited to talk with your audience and help. I love, yes, like we talked about, is giving, is how can we give back, right? I think what you give is going to come back to you tenfold, and that's not the reason to give, but it really just creates this beautiful circle and energy of how we can help each other. So many people have helped me in my journey in multifamily in particular, and that's a huge part of how I want to give back too.
That's awesome. So, I always start my shows by asking one question, and just to bring some context to that for you, I'm in the process of writing a book called The One Word. And I'll always, and over the last couple of 100 podcasts I've done, I've always asked my guests, hey, in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally? And so is that word giving, or is it something else?
I think it would be along the same lines. I would choose heart-centered. Can I use that? It's hyphenated, right? I can use that, heart-centered.
Yeah,
And
that's okay.
the reason I say that is because personally or professionally, that word really brings you back to your core, your purpose, right? And I think this comes in business when you're going to have hard times in business. It's never an easy road. Anyone who tells you that this is, even multifamily or whatever business that you're starting or that whatever skill set that you're learning, there's going to be challenges along the way. You're going to have to make tough decisions. Maybe you and your partners don't agree on something. But I think if you stay true to who you are and you stay in a heart-centered, if you make decisions from a heart-centered place, you're going to make the right decision. And just keeping that focus, right, is what do I know to be true, and how do I want this to come across? I want to make the best decisions for my investors, for my partners, for our residents, for my family when it comes to my personal life. And if you really truly, it may not always be, you may think like, is this the right decision? Is it there? I could go different directions. But if you are authentic in that and you stay true to what you believe your intentions are, that you're doing the right thing, that is the right choice.
That's awesome. I love that heart-centered, right? I think that, I did a podcast a while back with somebody who said their word was love, right? And, it's kind of that same thing, right? I'm such a word freak. And, you said authentic also in the midst of that. And, I think that the more vulnerable, the more authentic we are with our investors, the more that they trust in us, right?
Yes.
And, if we try to, come from a place of that's very egotistical, I think that we lose that trust with our investors. And if we're out raising capital and building relationships, we have to be vulnerable. We have to be authentic. And I love that heart-centered. I think that's awesome. So
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And people, I think, are attracted to that, right? I think this kind of comes with social media too. There's so much hype around social media and these images that we think that we have to portray.
mm,
But really, when I'm working with someone, or not, like you could take the personal side of like, who are you friends with? But on the business side is, who are you working with? You want that person to be a real, genuine, authentic person. I don't care about all the flashy stuff that comes with it. That's great, but that's not really who you are. That's
right,
meaningless.
right.
We're humans first, more than anything, and we need that. We need that to be able to connect with someone. And really, for me, I see it as like, investors want to be heard and understood, and you have to come from a place of authenticity to really have that connection.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for sharing that. I always like the beginnings of these podcasts because, they wind up going somewhere where you never expect. And I'm a pretty intentional guy, I like to be intentional about what I do. But you always wind up somewhere that you least expect. So it's pretty
I love
cool.
it.
Hey, Dawn, why don't you do this? Take a couple minutes, talk about who you are, your background, what you were doing before you got in this wild world of real estate investing, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's probably a lot of people that can relate to my situation, that maybe have been grinding it out for years in a W-2 job, or they want to make a change in their financial situation. Maybe they're either want to go to the next level, or they are thinking about retirement. Did I save enough? Do I want to create this legacy wealth for my family? Whatever that is, we're kind of always looking for this financial freedom, right? And and that can mean different things. But I think real estate, we can agree that that is a great place to have that, to kind of start with that passive income and to really grow your money, have your money work for you. And that's really ultimately what I was looking for. I really got started in real estate because I was looking to personally grow my money. I was taught growing up just to save my money, get a good job, work hard, put your nose to the grindstone. That's what my parents taught us. And a lot of you can relate to that. That is what they knew. And so that's what they taught us. And, I became a really good saver. I saved all my money. I put it all in a 401k. I was investing in some stocks, thinking I'm doing all the right things. And then somewhere along the line, I'm like, is it enough? Am I saving enough? I think I'm doing the right things, but is it enough? I got tired of the stock market volatility. And I thought, gosh, there's got to be a better way to do this. And my parents are in their 70s now, and they're still working. And I think that's a reality that a lot of people are facing, is we think we're doing all the right things. And then we're like, oh my gosh, am I going to have to work until I'm 70? And there's a big difference between wanting to work and having to work, right? But people are realizing that we're having to work longer if we're not making the right choices now of how to put our money to work. So I did a lot of research in a lot of different asset classes. I started with what a lot of people do probably is a single family flip. I started there and that was profitable, but I immediately thought, oh my gosh, this is so much work. So how am I going to scale this and really grow this into something, exponentially? And I didn't have time to be hands-on. I really wanted my money to work for me and not have to be hands-on. So I went back to the drawing board and did research on there's so many different ways you can invest and make money, right? I mean, I looked at car washes and storage and all these different things, and really multifamily checked all the boxes for me. And that's where I ended up. So I started investing passively. And then as I really got to understand the business a lot more, I met my partners through a mastermind and ended up joining their team. But I really I've talked with so many people along the way that have been in the same situation that I was in. I remember actually talking with a surgeon one time who, at the time, he was 56 years old. And he said, Dawn, I thought I'd be able to retire by the time that I'm between 55 and 60. And so he's right in there. And he's like, that's not the case. Unfortunately, he's like, I've been saving. I thought my money was going to go stretch. I could stretch it further. And he said the same thing that I did. He was like, there's got to be a better way. And now he's an investor with us. And so I feel like you come to this point where you have to make a choice. I can either grind it out at my job, my job, for the next 20 years, or I can make a different choice and I can do something that's going to change the trajectory of my financial future. And that's what it came down to for me is, listen, you can work in a fantastic W-2. And if you love your job, especially, you can absolutely do that. But it's still having this other income, passive income, and being able to put your money to work in a way that's really going to grow for you and have that income stream, and that's going to increase in value over time. It's really, I think it's something that everybody should be doing. It doesn't matter if it's multifamily, single family, land. There's so many different asset classes that you can buy, but it's just such a smart investment. And I think a lot of it goes to education. And that's why, I love that you have your podcast and you've got your mentorship program. And a lot of people just don't know. I think people want to invest in real estate. I think people understand that that's an asset that's going to cash flow. It's going to appreciate. It's going to increase in value, but they don't know how. They don't know how to get started. They don't know where to start, or they don't have time. That was a big thing for me. And so, flash forward to today, and that's really one of the primary things I focus on is education. I don't have my own mentorship program like you do or anything, but I always encourage people to seek those out. But for me, just, I know we're going to talk, more about capital raising. Capital raising to me is education. That's all it is. It's education. And you did hit on that. I want to talk more about this in a minute, is opportunity. You're not selling anything. So we can talk more about that, Mike. But I love that really all it is education. That's really what it comes down to. A lot of people just don't know how. That was me. I was looking for something. I didn't know what I was looking for.
Yeah, that's awesome. I couldn't write fast enough with some of the stuff you were saying, but you really, really hit on some great things. And, here's a point I want to make. Capital raising is about education, right? Education of learning how to do it, and then educating your investor. And, in that process, and this is really funny, in that process, you're giving a gift.
Yes.
Right? Even in my mentorship program, people pay for it, but I'm still giving a gift, right? I'm still giving a gift of knowledge and holding someone's hand through the process, which a lot of people need. I think that's great. So, what's Crown Capital? Who are you guys? What do you do? And what do you like most about what you do?
Yeah. So we do value add in multifamily, which essentially means that we're buying some older properties, usually built in around the 70s, 80s, 90s properties. And we're finding opportunities that really just, they may either need a facelift, they may have been owned for the same owners for a long time and they need a capital influx. A lot of times they just need some renovation. They need some love. They need some TLC. But these are properties that are in really good locations, solid locations, as if you were looking for a single family home, right? You would look for what kind of neighborhood is it in? Is it in a good school district? Are there surrounding parks and things for children and churches and employment, right? So we seek these properties out and we put together a business plan of how we think that we can improve the property. We want to attract good residents, keep delinquency low. And so we identify these opportunities and we uncover other things, maybe that the property is not operating as efficiently as it could be. So we put these all under a property management company. We third party that contract that out. But they're professionals that manage these properties and they can really streamline the operations for us. And so that's really what we do. We do acquisitions, we buy the properties. Once we have them under our ownership and under our management, then it's really just about creating this model of not only the efficiency side, but also really on the resident, having a really, really strong resident base. We focus a lot on residents because turnover can also hurt your business, right? So we're trying to keep delinquency low and keep turnover low and keep your residents happy. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this business, but it's really, the concept is pretty simple, right? Is keep your residents happy, have a really nice, safe place to live, something that's going to really attract them, have nice amenities. They're going to want to stay there, right? And then, operating side, get good people in, get good leasing agents, maintenance. And so we identify all these things and kind of put together this business plan and then just operate the property. So we do usually like a 5-year hold, and that's very common in this space. We are all holding some of our properties longer because we can talk about this a little bit too. If you want, we talked about rabbit holes. We can go down a rabbit hole because I feel like real estate it's a long game, right? And a lot of people got spoiled in the low interest rates, turning properties way too fast. You could almost say flipping these properties. And that's really not how real estate is designed. It's really a long-term game. And it can be very, very lucrative if you've got that solid foundation in place. So we really look for those core things, getting the location right, getting the debt structure right. We put all these things into place that are kind of these safety nets, right? And this creates passive income for our investors. So when we acquire a property, we put it in LLC. All of their investors are co-owners. You own a percentage of the property, which is pretty cool. A lot of our investors, they've never done anything like this if this is their first time investing with us. And they love this. They're like, oh my gosh, I can own an apartment complex and be a co-owner of this and share in the rental income without having to be a landlord. And that's exactly what they're looking for. We work with a lot of high net worth individuals, a lot of doctors, C-suite execs that are looking for that exact thing. They like the idea of owning properties and rental income, but they don't have time to find their own properties. They don't have time to find properties, manage properties. So this is the perfect opportunity for them.
Awesome. And what do you guys, you mentioned location and markets and that when you were talking about the asset class that you like to buy, what markets do you like? Do you like to invest in today?
I still am really bullish on Dallas. That's where I'm based, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It is growing like crazy here. I've lived in the area for, longer than I care to say, 35 plus years. I didn't grow up here, but moved here as a kid and have been in the area for a long time. And I've seen it grow, and it is still growing like crazy. And, we all have seen this massive shift to the Sunbelt states, right? Arizona, Texas, Florida. And it doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon. And that's great for us, right? We have, I don't really like the traffic, but it's great for us for the economy is really still very strong here. So you look for those fundamentals, right? So I still love DFW. We like Nashville a lot. But some of my partners are actually from Minnesota as well. And there's some great opportunities in markets that you can call them sleepy markets, but there's some fantastic growth going on. So don't discount those markets. It doesn't have to necessarily be in your city, even though I do like that. I know the Dallas area really well. I love that. I love investing. Like, I know exactly where that is. And my investors love that too. They know, like, I know where that is. It's right by the Galleria. But it doesn't have to be in your backyard, as long as you are partnering with someone in that area that can be boots on the ground, that knows the area really well.
Yeah, I love Dallas. I had a big portfolio in Dallas a while back, 2,700 units we own there. And, really, really like that market.
Love
It's
it.
funny. I have a quick story about a property in Dallas that we bought 2008. We bought this deal. It was a 400 unit deal that we bought it at like a 13 cap at the time. We paid like 15 million for it. And I know the guy who bought it 3 years ago at like a 4 cap and paid like 70 million for it.
Oh my
You know,
goodness.
which is just amazing to the fact that buy real estate and hold it, right?
Yes.
So yeah, you and I both are in this space that we're in these deals for 5 years. We cycle our investors in and out, but you know what? There's something to be said for buy real estate and hold it. So,
I agree with
um,
that. A 13 cap. That was before me. I've never even heard of that. I love it. I wish I was buying stuff at a 13 cap. That's fantastic.
yeah, right. So, hey, let's talk about capital raising. So, we're in an environment where things are shifting right now. If you look over the last couple of weeks, you've seen declines in the stock market. China's stock market's decline. We've got tariffs that are happening, and there's some uncertainty around that. The Feds have come out, said they're going to reduce rates 5 times this year. I think the market and the winds of the market are shifting to our favor, because when traditional investing, stocks and bonds, does what it's doing, alternative investments pick up steam. So are you doing anything different today than maybe you were doing a year ago to be raising capital and getting in front of investors?
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily doing anything different per se. You could say I'm always raising capital, always. It doesn't matter what's going on in the market, because again, it kind of goes back to that education piece. So why not? Even the past couple of years, have been slow, have been challenging. I'm thrilled to see things turning around, definitely picking up. We're super excited about opportunities on the horizon. We're seeing definitely more trading going on than we've seen in the past few years. So we're really excited about this. I think there's going to be really good buying opportunities right now and for the next few years. I love that. But I don't really do anything different. Even the past couple of years, that's all I've been focusing on, because even if we're not trading, if we're not buying anything, there's still that education piece, because the time will come when we do have a property. You've got now a database of investors and connections that you've been talking with for years and have been just helping with education and understanding, so they understand how it works. So when you do have a deal, they're ready to go. And that part is already done. Capital raising should not start when you have a deal, right? It should be done well in advance. And that's really what I do. So I'm kind of a one-to-one person, meaning I think there's some people that appeal to masses and put out mass content and then put you in a funnel. And I think that's great too, because we focus a lot on content, but they put you in this funnel and that works as well. But I really think the one-on-one strategy, and people may say, well, Dawn, that's going to take you forever. It does take longer, but it's way more impactful. Because if you can spend, the level that we're raising, $100,000 or more from an investor, they want, and rightfully so, want that one-on-one time with you. They really want to understand. They want to know everything. They want kind of that personal hand-holding, if you will. And I think it's worth your time, because that investor, it kind of goes back to that giving, building that trust, being authentic, is that person is going to be an investor for life. They're not going to look at anyone else, because they may barely know that person that's putting out a lot of content, a lot of good stuff, but they're putting out on a massive scale, and they never have that personal connection with that person, where I feel like if you can establish that personal connection, that personal trust, then that person will be an investor with you for life. They're not going to go to anyone else.
Yeah.
We do a lot of sponsorship events as well, because that's a great opportunity to meet people outside of the real estate space. I still go to the real estate conferences, but I like events that are outside of the real estate space. And this is where I connect with a lot of investors, just meeting people. Is we sponsor conferences, whether that's medical conferences or it might be a golf tournament, something like that. But it's a good opportunity for you to have a lot of one-on-one FaceTime with people, meeting people for the first time, and then just telling them what you do and sharing your personal story. That's where it starts too. I think it's like sharing your personal story is, how did you get here? What are you doing? Because most people, when you say multifamily, they don't even know what that is. I'm like,
Right.
it's just a fancy word for apartments. We start using this language and they're like, what? You're talking, if you're like talking to a physician, they don't know what you're talking about. So use, basic terms. And I also think that you're not selling them. And you mentioned this, Mike, earlier about giving them an opportunity. People think, they get scared when they're talking about capital raising, like, oh, I have to go like sell or I have to pitch this. It's not at all. It is not. They've got it wrong. You're not selling them anything. You are sharing your story. First of all, your personal story. Why did you start investing in multifamily or real estate? What drew you to that? And what have you seen? What's been your personal experience? Start with that, and then start to uncover with this person where they are in their journey and what their pain points are. What are their goals? Are they trying to save for their children's college? Are they trying to create legacy wealth? Are they trying to get out of a job that they don't like and they want to make a transition out? Find out what it is that they would like to achieve and then solve that problem for them. And we can solve that problem by presenting these opportunities to them.
Yeah, I love that. And I really like that you're doing these events outside of the real estate space, right? Because, it's kind of funny. I have a coaching client, and just this past week on our coaching call, he said, well, why should I go to all these real estate networking events? And I said, well, he goes, all those people are already doing what I'm doing. I said, but what you're missing is that a lot of those people invest in other syndications. Like, I have owner operators that are invested in my deals, right? Because they trust me and they
Yes.
know that we're going to perform on those deals. But I really like going outside of the community. So, I have a couple of chiropractors that I coach, and we've been doing these chiropractic events around the country where we go and have a booth. We did an event. You'll get a kick out of this. We did an event in Vegas, 5,000 people at the event, 160 vendors. We were the only financial services vendor there.
I
So,
believe it.
and then we had a captive audience. We walked away with over 100 leads of 100 conversations we had with people that didn't even know that you could invest in real estate this way.
Yes, exactly. I love that. That is a perfect example. Yes. And this is I think like a little nugget that it's like an untapped market. The fact that you said you were the only company there that was even talking about financial services. And this is the same that we see kind of in the medical space too, is there's all these vendors there. And I'm starting to see more conversations about that financial and wealth building. And I love it. I've been invited to speak on a couple of panels, and I think it's just such an important topic that why aren't we talking about this? So perfect space to be talking about. We all should bring this into everyday conversation, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think people forget, you walk in a room, you go to an event, and you think everybody knows who you are and what you're doing, right? Because you got invited to this party or this neighborhood event or whatever. But in reality, people forget what you do. They don't know who you are. So you have to reintroduce yourself, right? And say, hey, I am in the real estate investing space, and I help people like you create wealth, short-term and generational. And, I think that a lot of times we're just so ingrained in our everyday what we do that we forget that, and we
Yes.
have to express who we are and what we do to other people. So I like a lot of events that are outside of real estate like that. What else do you find gets you in front of, new potential investors, that works well for you?
Well, we do use a lot of social media. You have to, right? Such a huge tool that we should be using. And we use LinkedIn, YouTube. I love putting out content, putting out free content, put out all the content that you can create, good quality, free content, because you'd be surprised. I recently had somebody that found us on YouTube, and we don't advertise or anything on YouTube, but found a video and suddenly was like, I love it. And then wanted, and reached out to us to have a one-on-one conversation. And then it grew from there, and she's an investor. I think that if you continue to put that content out and be consistent in it, you will get a lot of interest. And it takes time. I think that's the only thing, people want this overnight success, right? They want it to happen so fast. And I did too. And especially when you first get into it, I'm like, in a year from now, I'm going to have all this. And it takes a long time. You're building a business. You're building a multi-million-dollar business. And it takes time to get there. And so just remember, though, when every time that you are having a conversation, or that you put a piece of content out on LinkedIn, or you create a video for YouTube, that you're planting seeds, and that content lives forever, which is so fantastic, because you don't know how many people it's just going to continue to grow. Maybe you only had 20 views, but in the next 6 months, that's going to continue to grow and grow and grow. It's going to be out there forever. Right. And so I would just say we do get a lot of interest from content that we put out, a lot of LinkedIn and a lot of YouTube, and especially. And I think just creating that content really just helps people understand what it is. And I've had people that it has taken a year for them. I've been watching you on LinkedIn for a year, and they finally have reached out, and they're like, okay, I want to know more about this. And I think people realize it's almost like in sales, when they teach you that, what is it, 7 touch points before someone will actually remember you, first of all, because you just made a good point on that, is that they don't even remember you. We're bombarded with so much content, and it takes 7 touch points for them to even remember who you are. And so just be consistent. Just keep consistently putting that out there, because it may feel like it's falling on deaf ears, but it's not. It really is. You're building to something. And once people see your content over and over again, they also are building that trust. And then they're like, okay, I'm ready to have a conversation. Let's talk about this. And it can take a year. I can't tell you how many people that have either I've met before at a conference, and they'll be like, okay, I want to do my own rentals. I don't want to do multifamily. I don't want to do a syndication. I want to do my own single family rentals. I'm going to go buy some properties. And I will talk to them a year later, and I'm like, did you buy that rental you were telling me about? And they're like, no, I haven't done anything. Yeah. And so they're like, okay, let's have a conversation now, because they want to do something. And so you're there with them through the whole journey. Just remember, you're holding their hand through the whole journey. And eventually they're going to see the light, and they're going to see what you saw in multifamily and what attracted you to multifamily in the first place. And, but it's a process. Doesn't happen overnight. It's a relationship. You're establishing that relationship. So just take time to nurture those relationships. And that, to me, has gone much further than any other approach that I've tried.
Yeah, 100%. I love what you said about social media too. My philosophy around social media is I follow Gary Vee's philosophy, which is post 3 to 5 times a day on 3 to 5 platforms, and you get your message out there. But I have to tell you a quick story. I was on an airplane heading to Boston. So I live in Southern California. I was going to Boston, and I was on an airplane, and I'm sitting there, and somebody walking down the aisles looking at me like they know me. And he goes, I know you from somewhere. And I just looked at him. I said, YouTube? He goes, that's exactly where I know you from. So it was kind of funny, but that stuff happens, right?
But that didn't happen overnight either. Look how much you have built, and you, just like anything, you have to put in the time and build it and do it right and be consistent. Consistency is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, it is consistency. And I see so many people that, are very sporadic in their social media, or they drop off for a few months and then come back. And I think there's a lot to be said in the consistency, right? Like,
yes.
I've been in this process now for a while, and we haven't lost a beat. I haven't taken a month off or 2 months off, and I think you're right that consistency is doing that. And I really like what you said about giving away free education, because you're giving that gift, right?
Yes.
You're giving a gift to people, and it's that knowledge and the encouragement, right?
Yes.
Of
Yeah.
doing it every day.
Yep. Yeah. I love the consistency piece. I think consistency wins every time. I think that we talk about that in taking action too. I think that there's some people that really they want to take this massive action. They want this massive shift and kind of like the overnight success, and they want to see this huge leap, but that's really not how growth happens. It happens with
Right.
consistency. And so just it's a daily consistency is daily. It's not I want to lose 40 pounds and that's not going to happen overnight. It's like, how do you get there? There's this massive disconnect when you say massive action. It's consistent action. I like that much better than taking massive action. It's consistent. It wins every time. So in your content, be consistent. I wish I was doing I wish I could say I was doing 3 to 5 posts a day, but I'm still consistent. We don't miss a beat. We schedule it. If I know I'm going to be out of town or something, my assistant will schedule it and we have it all laid out. We plan weeks and months in advance of content and just continue to put that out there and really be a resource and add value to someone. And if you think about where you were when you started this journey and what you were using, maybe not as much social media, but we were using content. We were seeking out what kind of resources are there for education. I want to get my hands on as much as I can, books and podcasts, and you're trying to just be a sponge and absorb all of this. And
Right.
that's what you're trying to now create for your audience, for, give that back. Think about how did you start? And then how can I create that same experience for my potential investors, the people that I'm trying to reach, and create that same kind of environment for them where they can learn about you. They can learn about the business, what it means, how it works, teach them all of those things. If you become a teacher, and again, kind of go back to that heart-centered, don't think about the money. Don't think about don't look at people as if they're dollar signs, right? You're not just trying to get money out of someone. You really are trying to help them solve a problem, you're creating a solution for them, and you're giving them the opportunity, just like you said, Mike, is you're giving them something. Focus on that. Do not think about the money for a second, because if you think about the money, you're going to lose. You're in the wrong. You're coming from a wrong place. Think about, how can I help this person? And they will see that. They will see, oh my gosh, this person genuinely helped me figure out how I was going to invest. What should I do? How does this work? Teach me about it. Teach me everything that you know. They'll never forget that.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Hey, let's talk real quick about nurturing. I think that a lot of times people, you mentioned earlier about 7 times, right? People need to hear you or talk to you 7 times. I actually think it's closer to 12. Because, I remember when I first got in real estate, I had to touch people like 3 times before I get a listing. I was on the residential side for years, but then it kind of grew to 7. I think we're actually closer to 12 times.
You're probably right about that. I believe
Yeah.
that.
So how are you nurturing? If you meet me today for the first time, how do you nurture me now along the way to get me to, like you, love you, and trust you, right, to invest in your deal?
Well, outside of the content, of course, I really try to focus on making it a relationship, just as we're friends, right? And so I'm going to do, what would I do for my friends? I'm going to send you a birthday card on your birthday. I know something about your children and that your daughter is graduating. I'm going to send her a graduation card or a gift. I'm going to acknowledge these things, that just as if this is a relationship, just like any other relationship, it shouldn't be any different. This person is going to eventually, most likely, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars investing with you over time. And what would I want? How would I want to be treated? I'm just a person. I'm a normal person, just like you. They may be a billionaire, but they're a normal person and they care about normal things. What do they care about? If I know that they like traveling, I connect with a lot of people on traveling because that's one of my passions is traveling. I have one of my investors, he goes on a huge trip every year. It's different every year. So we talk about this. I'm like, where are you going this year? This year it's Africa. And he tells me all about it. So we talk, I ask, how was Africa? I keep these things on my radar just as a regular relation, just like as any other relationship, as any other friendship. And it's more than just now I know this person. He's not just an investor to me. He's a friend. I know this person. We've established this relationship and I know about him. I know about his children. And I don't think that should be any different. Again, I know that there's people that really market on a massive scale. And I think that that's fine. But I think once you're down to that point where you've got this group of investors that it doesn't take that many investors really to raise money. It doesn't, because I can do a lot of $25,000, $50,000 investors, or I want to focus on 100,000, 250,000, 500,000. And those investors, when you establish that type of relationship with them, that's the kind of investment that they're going to be making with you. It's worth your time. And again, it goes back to that being heart-centered. And this is not, yes, it's a business, but what kind of business do I want to run? Do I want to run something that's just like a burn and churn and just try to get as many people through as I can? No, at least I don't. That's not what I'm about. That's not how I want to operate my life. And it's not how I want to operate my business. I'd much rather have a more meaningful relationship. And in that, you start to see people's lives change. Like, how cool is that? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. Well spoken. Thank you. Hey, do you have any giveaways for people or anything you want people to, resource that you have for somebody?
Yes, absolutely. I do. I have a free guide that is called 10 Tips to Make Your Money Work for You. After all, that's what this is about. We're going to try to make our money work as hard for us as we work for it. And if you want to just send me an email, you can shoot me an email at info@crownmultifamily.com and just put free guide or guide in the subject, or just say, hey, Dawn, I heard I heard there's a free guide. I will send it to you. Yes.
Awesome. And is that the best way for people to get a hold of you, Dawn?
Yes. Yeah. Info@Crown Multifamily. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. We'll make sure that's in the show notes. Hey, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for being here. A lot of golden nuggets that investors should go back and listen to this a second time.
Thank you for having me, Mike. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
And, if I can ever give back the gift to you that you gave to me this morning, just let me know.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Dawn. You have a great day and take care, everybody. Have a great week, and we will be here next Saturday.